Welcome back to High Stakes. Today, we will be discussing the following NCAA football matches that is happening on Saturday, September 2nd, 2023. We will be providing our team, total and prop picks for the day. Before we get started, please remember to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. If you want access to our premium picks, you can check out our Patreon page. You can find the link to our Patreon page in the description and comments section below. East Carolina vs Michigan. Take Michigan minus 35.5 points. And here is why. J.J. McCarthy is back at quarterback for the Wolverines. The 6'3" junior quarterback is one of the best scramblers in the conference and can sling it too. He threw for 343 yards in the semi-final loss to TCU. Running back Blake Corum may be the best back in the nation. He was a Heisman favorite last season before a late season injury. Corum and Donovan Edwards form a dangerous backfield that can break big runs at any moment. Receiver Cornelius Johnson is back. He is a 6'3" senior who grabbed 6 touchdowns last season. Chris Jenkins has been the talk of the defensive side of the ball. Nicknamed the Mutant, Jenkins is a 6'3", 300-pound defensive tackle with athleticism to explode off the snap. The defense returned 7 starters from a team that ranked 7th in the nation, allowing only 16.1 points per game. Leading tackler Junior Colson is back at the linebacker position after recording 101 tackles last season. Free safety Rod Moore also returns after leading the team in interceptions with 4. Last season, Michigan participated in 3 non-conference games, and they managed to score more than 50 points in all 3 of them. They achieved a dominant victory over UConn with a final score of 59-0. Among these games, the closest margin of victory was in their match against Colorado State, where they won convincingly with a score of 51-7, covering the spread. It's worth noting that this year's Michigan team might even surpass the performance of the previous season. Coach Harbaugh is likely emphasizing the importance of sending a strong message with their performance in this upcoming game. On the other hand, East Carolina has encountered setbacks as they lost their star quarterback and running back from the previous season. Consequently, they are expected to face challenges in moving the ball effectively against Michigan's formidable defense. Cade McNamara, with his impressive 22-5 TT-int ratio from last season, is poised for a successful outing. While he possesses athleticism, he has also refined his passing skills. Additionally, Blake Corum, a strong candidate for the Heisman Trophy, has the potential to kick off the season with an outstanding performance against East Carolina's defense. In summary, Michigan is anticipated to secure a decisive victory, making a significant statement early in the season. New Mexico Lobos vs Texas A&M Aggies. Our team pick is Aggies minus 37 points. And here is why. The Lobos were sitting in 61st in the country concerning team defense, conceding 26.0 points per game. Opposing teams ran for an average of 4.1 yards per rushing attempt and 157.4 rushing yards per contest last season. Over the course of last season, they gave up 1,889 running yards through 12 games. When talking about passing yardage, the Lobos gave up 2,434 yards, which put them in 20th in college football. Over the course of their 12 games, they conceded 202.8 yards per contest through the air, as well as allowing a completion percentage of 61.0%. They allowed 360.2 yards per outing, which ranked them 46th in college football. They granted 16 touchdowns via the pass and 19 touchdowns on the ground. The Aggies wrapped up their year having a 5-7 record. When they last stepped on the field, the Aggies took home the win by a final score of 38-23 against the LSU Tigers. Connor Weigman, 2 TDs, finished the game with 155 yards on 12/18 passing, while his quarterback rating was 175.7. He didn't throw any interceptions, and his average yards per attempt was 8.6. Devin Achane carried the rock 38 times for 215 yards, ending the contest with 5.7 yards per attempt for Texas A&M. The Aggies ended up finishing with 429 yards while running 68 plays, 6.3 yards per play. Texas A&M ended up running for 5.5 yards per attempt, finishing with a total of 274 yards on 50 carries. Texas A&M surrendered 32 attempts on the ground for 187 yards, 5.8 yards per carry. The Aggies secondary allowed a completion percentage of 61.1%, surrendering 197 yards on 22 out of 36 through the air. Our total pick is over. And here is why. The Texas A&M Aggies held an average of 360.9 yards game, which had them ranked 93rd in college football. The Texas A&M offense compiled 589 penalty yards on 76 violations, which had them ranked 70th in the country in terms of giving up free yards. Last year, the Aggies compiled 2,633 passing yards, as well as averaging 219.4 throwing yards per contest, which had them ranked 84th in the nation. Regarding their ability to score points, the Aggies had a ranking of 101st in the nation, averaging 22.8 ppg. Texas A&M gave up a total of 2,506 yards via the ground game, 208.8 yards per outing, and 13 touchdowns by way of the ground game last season. They conceded 16 touchdowns from the passing game, as well as 156.2 yards per game, which had them in first in college football. The Aggies' defense was on the field for 847 plays, which had them ranked 50th in D1. The Aggies relinquished 21.2 ppg, ranking them 25th in Division I. In total, they conceded 254 total points. Arkansas State Red Wolves vs Oklahoma Sooners. Our team pick is Sooners minus 33 points. And here is why. The Sooners wrapped up their season having earned a 6-7 record. When they last stepped on the field, the Sooners took a loss by a final score of 35-32 when they played the Florida State Seminoles. Dylan Gabriel, 1 TD, ended the game with 243 yards on 14/24 passing, while his QB rating was 157.1. He didn't toss any picks, and his average yards per pass attempt was 10.1. Javante Barnes ran the football 27 times for 108 yards, ending the contest with 4.0 yards per carry for Oklahoma. Oklahoma ran for 4.2 yards per attempt, finishing the contest with 253 yards on 60 carries. The Sooners finished with 496 yards, while they ran 84 plays, 5.9 yards per play. The Sooners' passing defense gave up a completion percentage of 71.1%, surrendering 418 yards on 27 out of 38 passing. Oklahoma gave up 34 rushing attempts for 169 yards, 5.0 yards per carry. Regarding putting points on the board, the Sooners were ranked 33rd in college football, with a maintained average of 32.8 ppg. For the prior season, the Sooners had a total of 3,310 passing yards, as well as an average of 254.6 passing yards per game, which ranked 42nd in the nation. The Oklahoma Sooners averaged 474.0 yards contest, which had them ranked 13th in D1. The Oklahoma offense racked up 653 yards of penalties on 74 infractions, which was 75th in the country in terms of giving up free yards. The Sooners relinquished 30.0 ppg, which put them in 99th in college football. Oklahoma yielded a total of 2,438 yards via the ground game, 187.5 yards per game, and 29 touchdowns on the ground last season. Over the course of the season, they gave up 390 points in total. They gave up 20 touchdowns through the air, in addition to 276.2 yards per contest, which put them in 120th in the country. The Sooners' defense participated in 1,044 plays, which had them ranked 129th in D1. Our total pick is under. And here is why. The Arkansas State Red Wolves ended the season holding a 3-9 record. In their last contest, the Red Wolves faced off with the Troy Trojans and walked away from this one with a loss by a score of 48-19. James Blackman went 20-35 with 220 yards through the air. He had a quarterback rating of 104.2 and ended the contest with 1 pick. Johnny Lang was the best rusher for the Red Wolves, with 5 attempts for 20 yards, 4.0 yards per carry. The Arkansas State Red Wolves ended up rushing 25 different times and accumulated 38 yards, earning them an average of 1.5 yards per carry. For the game, they ran 62 plays which converted into 259 yards. Arkansas State gave up 9 pass completions on 15 tries for 144 yards and a completion percentage of 60.0%. Against a rush, the Red Wolves gave up 268 yards on 51 attempts, which is an average of 5.3 yards per run allowed. When talking about scoring points, the Arkansas State Red Wolves held an average of 25.0 points per game. As a unit, they averaged 88.2 yards via the ground game, ranking this team 128th in the country. The Red Wolves earned 3,778 total yards for last season. Arkansas State earned 16 passing touchdowns and 16 touchdowns on the ground. Arkansas State accumulated 206 first downs offensively, and they were flagged for 70 penalties for 664 yards. They turned the football over 10 different times. The Red Wolves were ranked 108th in the country in terms of the opposition scoring, allowing 31.4 ppg. They allowed an average of 4.0 yards per rushing attempt and 162.4 rushing yards per game throughout last season. In total, they gave up 1,949 yards via the ground game in 12 games. Concerning yards via the pass, the Red Wolves allowed 2,912 yards, which had them ranked 70th in the country. Over the course of their 12 games played, they relinquished 242.7 yards per contest through the air and allowed a completion percentage of 60.4%. They allowed 405.1 yards per outing, which put them 90th in Division 1. They gave up 25 touchdowns through the air and 23 touchdowns via the ground game.